Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about the topic of shame, something I have struggled with for a good part of my life. Most of our beliefs about ourselves and our thoughts about the world form in our first 5 or 6 years of life. However, shame is one of those imprints that, from my own personal research, may have started just slightly later when we were around other people. Shame forms as a reflection that other people give us about who we are. Now, I'll also contribute some of the formation of shame to pre-life contracts and imprints. By that, I mean the amount of wrongdoing or the sinning that we actually came into this life already with. We came into this life prepared to pay the price for our badness in previous lives. Yet, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to refrain from talking any further about past lives and just really focus on this current life. For the most part, shame formed as a result of our interpretation about how other people reacted to us. What that means is if they shunned us, turned away, made fun of us, abused us, or were too busy for us, then we may have interpreted that as something is inherently bad or wrong about us. It's in this young age when our brains aren't developed enough to take the circumstances of the situation into consideration, such as mom has to work 2 jobs. We're only left to conclude and believe that something is inherently wrong with us. The onus of the badness has to do with us. Imagine as if there was no bathroom mirror and the only way we were able to see who we are is through the lens of other people. By the time we're toddlers, we begin to mentally build our self-concept around the reflection others in the world gave us. And of course, since we live in a law of attraction universe, what that means is if I'm thinking I'm bad, if I'm feeling contraction and the feelings of being bad, then we will attract circumstances which confirm that belief that we have. Those with deep shame had parents who made little distinction between being bad and doing bad. So being bad is shame, doing bad is guilt. When I was personally looking for a mate for a husband, it was really important to me that I had somebody that didn't have shame, so that would balance me, that was very comfortable with who they are. And that is my husband. So for instance, if I'm driving and all of a sudden I see headlights of a police car right behind me, I'll instantly contract. My whole body will just clench and I'll instantly feel like the worst person in the world, shame-ridden. And especially if it comes out and gives me a ticket, then I basically won't be able to live with myself for the rest of the day. Whereas if this same thing happened to my husband, he would just let it go. He doesn't leave his body. He stays there and doesn't feel like he did a bad thing. He feels that he did a mistake. He'll acknowledge a mistake and feel guilty or apologize or whatever's needed. But he has a solid way of distinguishing that from his inherent good, his inherent being as a person. So when people have shame, they may feel like a snail. This is how I feel. I feel like a snail. I just want to hide. I want to get off all social media. I want to get off of anything that's out in the public, erase all my videos. And so it's almost a shock that I am so much in the public eye. There are indeed times when I have that internal tug of war between like, why can't I just be anonymous like a normal person versus the voice that says you need to get out there. You need to make a difference in the world. So I'm going to get vulnerable now and I'm going to take you into my own personal shame experience and take you through some steps for healing. And then following that, I'm going to guide you to do the same. Okay? So the first step is to acknowledge the shame that is true and present for you. So after I do that and acknowledge how it feels, where it is in my body, because normally we just want to run from it or leave our body or escape from it or defend or push away. And that is basically losing our grounding and coming up. That is the normal reaction for shame. So instead, I just want to be with it, stay present in my body, stay present with the discomfort. The next step is I'm going to go back to the root of it. I'm going to find a childhood memory. For a lot of the imprinting healing, I recommend people go back to the first 5 years of life. For this very exercise, that is less essential. I would recommend finding a time between the age of 2 and 10 when you were feeling shame. So the experience that really stands out for me is there was one day when I was in second grade and I was beat up twice by black kids. And I remember feeling the entire time like I deserve this. I basically just put myself out there for them to beat me up. I didn't try to escape from it. I never fought back. I literally just took the punches, one after the other. And I remember even thinking that this actually isn't even that hard. They could, oh, and then I remember I got one really big one in my belly. That one was hard. But other than that, I was thinking, gosh, they could do it harder. They could do it harder. And then after that, I remember just wanting to hide and not talk to anybody because I felt like I deserved that. I felt ashamed for everybody seeing what a bad person I actually was and how I got the punishment that I actually deserved. I didn't want anybody to know because I didn't want them to get in trouble because I didn't feel like they deserved any punishment. I felt like I was getting what was owed to me. I felt sad. I was in school very quiet and just wanted to hide every single day. All I wanted to do was hide from the truth of who I was. This, just FYI, was misdiagnosed as ADD. But I don't believe I was ever really ADD. I believe I just didn't want to be in my physical body. I had so much shame for being who I was. Okay, so the next step is to acknowledge how this little one is feeling. So the next step is to validate the experience that the little one's going through, which I did in my process. The feelings that I went through were true and real for me, and I had a perfectly good reason for feeling those feelings. And then the next step is to realize that at this point of intensity, I fragmented. Everybody who's going through shame, going through a peak trauma experience such as this one, will fragment. There's three main categories of fragments. The first one is the part of you that just wants to pull in and retract and hide. The second part is the vulnerable hurt part. This is the part that's actually really hurting. This is the part of me that actually I really wanted friends. I really wanted to be liked, but I didn't think I was worthy enough to be, I didn't think I had anything to contribute. And then the third fragment is the protector self. This is the part of myself that just hardened myself so that I could take more blows. I could take more pain. This is the part of myself that left my body in this moment of intensity and that felt like I could take more and more pain and more punches. Now, as you get older, this protector part will be the part that pushes away the world. That's like, I'm not taking that anymore. And that part that as soon as somebody points out something for you to be shameful around, you'll be like, fuck you. And you'll just immediate defense and pushing away. This is the part of you that wants to protect and guard yourself. Okay. So you might have subsets of these parts, and that's perfectly okay. So next, once you acknowledge your different parts of yourself, you want to take a breath and you want to acknowledge each of their needs. Each of them has unique needs. So for my part that wanted to just hide and retract, that part just really needed to be held. It needs to be okay being like hidden and quiet. This is the part it's okay if you sit in the corner. It's okay for you to feel the pain and want to be away from the kids. I'm not gonna make you go and be around the kids. This could be a part, and when you're providing the needs for these parts, you could have a helper, you could have a spirit guide, you could have a grandma, anybody you want to be there and give you whatever that part needs. For my vulnerable part, the part that's hurting, that part needs a grandma. It just needs to feel safe. It needs to feel that I'm okay, that I don't have any friends, and that basically this part needs a friend. And this is also the part that feels very isolated and alone. So my shame self, my first part actually wants to be alone, where this part doesn't want to be alone. This part wants to be held with a friend. And then my third part, the protector self, that part needs help with softening. It needs to know that the world is safe and I don't have to fight back so hard. I don't have to see everybody else as the enemy because they're not the tiger. They're not the invader, the thing to push away. And it's going to be okay. This part, the protector self, needs to know it's going to be okay. It needs to have some more breath and softness in her chest. Okay? So then after the needs are provided, the next step is to repurpose them. So the repurposing happens in present time where there's a perfectly good need for all of these parts. I'll give you an example. So for my part that just wants to hide and retract, that's the part that really is empathetic. This is the part that likes quality time and could just sit there one-on-one with another person and completely be present with you. And then I have the part that, the vulnerable hurt part, and this is the part that I could repurpose it to be just the friend that people need, because everybody needs a friend. I know there's some people who have an abundance of friends, but not most people. And so this is the part that will just send hellos and highs on Facebook. And this is the part that personally, when I have clients, I'm an intuitive coach. So when I have clients, I actually just really want a friend as well. I'm not one of those people that does 60-minute sessions and then the time's up, it's time for you to go. I'm like, no, I want to be here and be your friend in the way that you need and the way that we both need. And that's what feels good to me in my work. And then the third part, this is the part that is the protector. And this is the fighter. This is the part of me that says, I'm not going to put up with that for me or for you. I'm going to stand by you until this goes away or until you have your needs met. So this is the part of me that's the fighter and willing to stand up for my beliefs. Okay. And so after you spend some time providing the needs and healing and then repurposing these parts, then the next step is the uplift. And the way I think of this is there's a perfectly good reason why we endured such suffering and pain, specifically around the shame aspect of ourselves. And when we get to the other side of that, what might that future trajectory look like? And so I create, this is more of a future vision of why, it's a greater reason why you came into this life and chose that aspect, that part. As if you were to believe, to venture way out there and actually believe that we chose all the aspects of ourselves. I'm just asking you to hypothetically say, if that was at all a possibility, then why would I have chose this trait? What would I have to learn? So I'm going to actually hold off right now on giving you the examples of why until we get to that part as I take you through the meditations. Now I invite you to join me, and I'm going to guide you through a healing process to heal your own wounded shame body. So I'm going to turn on some music, and I'm going to invite you to get comfortable, to find a place. You could lay down or you could sit somewhere where you feel comfortable connecting in with your shame self. And find a time, a recent memory where you feel shame. What's going on? Where do you hold your shame in your body? What does it feel like? So invite yourself to experience this completely, because for this class, we're going to go in deeper into it. We're not going to run from it. We're going to go to the root, and we're going to acknowledge that it has a perfectly good reason for being there. And next, I invite you to go back to the root of where your shame self originated. Ask your higher self to show you a memory in your childhood of where you felt shame, where you felt shunned by other people. So shame occurs when you're around other people. That's the initial trigger of it. That lights up the part of you that believes that you're inherently wrong or bad. Find that memory. Take yourself to that memory. See what's going on. And when you're there, I'm going to start the channeling aspect of this healing group where I see your little one, and I'm going to intend for the channeling to be for the people who are actually on this live event, as well as the people who will be joining us later and listening to the recording. So see what's going on for her or him. And first of all, I want you to let her know that she has a perfectly good reason for feeling the way she is, for feeling like she's not good enough, something's wrong with her. It makes perfect sense considering the circumstances. So just acknowledge and validate her or his experience. And next, I want you to acknowledge the parts of you that fractured or split apart at that very moment. There's the part of you that just wants to hide and retract. That's your shame part. There's the part of you that is the vulnerable aspect that's truly hurting from this painful experience. So just acknowledge and be with that part of yourself for a moment. The vulnerable, hurt part of yourself. And then third, there's a protective part, the part that leaves your body and can endure more and more pain. This is the part that believes that you need more pain. This is a self-sabotaging part that gives you more flagellations of punishment. So acknowledge that part of yourself. And from each part, you might have smaller or subset parts, and that's okay too. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go to each of these three main categories of your parts, and we're going to provide them what they need. So let's start with the shame aspect of yourself, or the part of you that actually wants to pull in and hide and retract. Ask yourself, what does she need in this moment? It looks like she really needs to be held. She feels isolated and alone, and the world is scary. Nobody gets what's going on with her. She has to go through this experience alone. So I'm going to help you to give her the love that she actually needs. She feels very isolated and alone. She needs to be held. See your little one at that young age. She's so adorable. I mean, how could you not love this little one? It's just crazy that the thoughts that she's feeling about herself don't line up to what your perception of her is right at this moment. Because all I could see of her is she's such a sweet, innocent little girl. And you could tell her a little bit about what she's feeling isn't quite accurate. Her interpretation, although it might be true, it's not accurate to your interpretation. And if you want to bring in a support figure or somebody to help you with giving her the nourishment and love that she actually needs, you could go ahead and do that. Go ahead and ask her, what does she need? And then give that to her. She's feeling small and insignificant. And if she wants to feel small and insignificant, rather than trying to convince her that that's not the right way to feel, Just let her feel that, but nurture her, support her, hold her. We all feel small and insignificant at times, but that is no indication of who you are in this lifetime, and no indication of who you will be either. And now let's go on to the next part of you that is fragmented. This is your vulnerable self. This is your hurt self. See what's going on for her. She maybe feels all alone. All she wants is to be liked. All she wants is to have a friend. Yeah, that's very sad. I feel the pain in my heart. In fact, I have a lot of sadness for her. So let's give her what she needs in that moment. She needs some nurturing. I get your level of sadness, and I just want to be there with you and witness you in what you're going through. I witness you. I'm here with you. You don't have to go through this alone. And I know that the world might have seemed very scary, and anybody going through what you're going through might have felt that as well. It makes sense now. I get it now. I get your pain and your sadness, and I'm sorry I couldn't have been there with you more. I'm sorry I couldn't have been there with you more in the way you needed me to. And see what else she needs. This is your vulnerable aspect that's split off at that very moment of that shame experience. This is the moment where you felt like you were doing something very wrong. You weren't okay. This is the sadness. This is the disconnection. This is the pain. What else does she need? And who else does she need? Feel free to call in any support figures you need in this very moment. And then let's go to the third fragmented part. The third fragmented part is your protector self. This is the part that hardens when this experience happens. It's a protective mechanism that happens to all of us. So see what's going on in the little one as she experiences this protection defense. She hardens in the world against other people shunning her, abusing her, hurting her in some way. She needs to protect. And it's almost like a protection and pulling away. So this looks like it's mainly located in your chest. So I'm giving some Reiki, softening the chest. It's like a cage that you've created around your upper body, your upper chest. What does this part need? How can we help it to soften? What else does it need? Ask this part, what do you need from me right now? How can I best support you? How can I be your friend? Take another moment on that. And now we're going to repurpose the three parts of ourselves. And I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about. So in today's day and age, there is a perfectly good need for each of these three parts. For example, if I was going to repurpose my shame self, my hurt, my withdrawn part of myself, this is the part of myself that has empathy, that can understand your pain, because I've been there too. And this is the part of myself that's wanting to be here with you completely. It's my soft and quiet aspect. How does your part of yourself that wants to hide, how can we repurpose that part and use it for good in today's day and age? How can this part of yourself still help you today? And then the second fragmented part of yourself, your vulnerable aspect. How can we repurpose your vulnerable aspect of yourself, the part of you that the disconnection's so deep, that feels so unworthy? So for my own personal experience, this is the part of myself that wants friends, that wants to be liked. And there's lots of people who are hungry for friends. So this helps me to be more genuine with my clients, for one thing. So this is the part of myself that you don't need to do anything. I just want you as my friend. And this is the part of myself that maybe I'll go into Facebook and just say, hey, I'm thinking of you. This is my part of myself that just wants to be liked, and I'll do things to have other people feel good about themselves. To just be like, hey, all I want is your friendship. Is that, and I'll be very kind to you in exchange for your friendship. How does your part want to be repurposed in that way? And then the third fragmented aspect that we're referring to is the protector part. How could we repurpose the protector part in a way that will actually serve you? So this is the part of myself that actually is the defender. This is the fighter part of myself. This is the part that says, look, I'm going to fight for your good, your wholeness. I'm going to stand by you. I'm going to look towards the justice of others. And if I see a parent harming a child, this is the part of myself that's actually going to stand forward and say, stop it. So just take a moment and see how you could repurpose this part of yourself. The next step, which is actually step 6, this is the uplift or the why. This is the turn around. If we thought about life as a schoolroom and every hardship we're going through in our life, there's a perfectly good reason for. And when we get to the other side of that pain, that hardship, there's going to be a magic oasis. There's going to be a purpose-driven reason for why that is. I don't believe any bad trait has been given onto you without there being a reason for it. Now, this is a very abstract question, and you might not get to an answer in this session. Yet this is just something to think about for the future. And I'll give you an example of my own for why shame has befallen me for so much of my life. Okay? So the turnaround is, if this aspect of you was healed, then what would that look like? So I'm going to speak to the part of me that was a victim, powerless. This is the part of me that I didn't feel like I knew anything. I never felt like I knew the answer. I never felt like I had anything to offer. The turnaround is I am an instigator of taking change. I am an instigator of taking charge of life and empowering other people to see that you too can shift and change every aspect of your life. Every aspect of the past, every aspect of the present, and every aspect of the future. I'm an ambassador for people never having to feel the level of shame and pain that I went through. It's not necessary, and I'm here to stand for you to step into your truth and step into your weakness and reframe the past and the pain and leave that in your past. And then secondly, I'll speak to the part of myself who was always so shy. I never spoke up. I always wanted to hide. And when I turn that around, the uplift is I'm one to come out and speak. I'm one to be bold and to stand out, even if it means me being different. I'm going to be the teacher and the one that stands out and learn that my differences are actually a light rather than something than a curse. And then the third part I'm going to speak to is the part of myself that always felt like I was alone and always felt like I was isolated. So my uplift and my turnaround is now I'm so inspired to bring people together in community and in connection. I'm an ambassador for sisterhood and for us working together to support one another. No more lone wolfing. We can't do this life alone. We can't do our businesses alone. We need one another. I need you just like you need me. And I never want you to go through your hardship alone. So just take a moment and ask yourself, what is your turnaround? How can you turn this around for yourself? If you have a piece of paper close by, this is a great thing to write down. Why? Why did you struggle through life with so much of this hardship? What was the reason for it? And now is the last step of this healing journey. And this is where we integrate all of these fragmented parts of yourself. We invite them to come into our body and to be one and whole again. So go ahead and invite them into your body. Acknowledge each of the reason and appreciate their purpose for being there and how their very essence has helped you to be this person who you are to this very day. We welcome these fragmented parts back into our body because the truth is they are us. And when we welcome these aspects into us, we have the ability to transmute shame into truth. And we have the ability to stand more powerfully, more senior in our space, and own the truth of who we are, own that we are human, and all humans make mistakes. And from this point forward, any mistake you make doesn't mean you're a bad person. I want you to really get the difference. You are not a bad person. You are good. There's a reason you're here. We want you here. We want more of you. We want you to bring your goodness out into the world. We want you to stop hiding. Yes, you've done bad things. Yes, we've all done bad things. But that's in the past, and we invite a new future to come your way. So one more time, shut your eyes and allow all these fragmented parts to find their place, find their home inside of your body. Let them just clink in wherever they need to go. And give them a moment just to settle in there. I'm giving some healing to your chest to get you even more to soften in your lower throat and in your chest. Breathe into that area. Own your truth of who you are. Own that you are a valuable being here put on this planet to take up space. We need you to take up your space, which is rightfully yours. Deep breath into your chest. And exhale and release. Keep breathing. With each breath, feel your ribs separate from one another. That's a showing of that you're taking up more space in your lungs. And now I'm going to work on your abdomen area to breathe into your belly. You know, when you allow your belly to kind of like pop out a little bit more, this is basically like, I am who I am. I am who I am. That's what that energy says. And when you do this, you also allow your shoulders to fall back. And so allow your shoulders to, like the very tops of your shoulders to fall back. And as that happens, your tips of your shoulder blades come closer towards one another. You allow your belly to come fully out. Each breath expands it even more. And let's one last time visit that scene as a child and see her now whole and connected with all the parts are now integrated into her body. And I want you to give her one wonderful big hug for making the journey through everything she's went through. She's been through a lot of pain. Poor thing. Just give her the love. But she made it through. And she made it through, and she made it through strong. So just thank her one last time. You could hold her hands, look in her eyes, and say, we're doing this thing together. We're in this together. And from this point forward, you never have to suffer to this degree. I give you permission to release that level of burden, to release the feeling of being a bad person, to let that go. I redeem you. One last breath together. And then we're going to release this memory of the past. So I want you to first see where it's connected on your body. And then allow that part that's connected into you to release from your body, to float away, to float to the left because the left is past, and to explode into a million pieces, to release it out into the universe to where it needs to go. The past is the past. And now let's welcome the present. So come into your body right now. Really own every cell of your body. Feel your body. Feel every part of your body that's being touched by the chair or by your clothes or by the breeze. And say, this is who I am. And from this point forward, I'd like you to commit to being fully in your body, to taking up space, and to know that you're a perfectly good human being. You no longer need to repent or pay your dues from things you did this life or past. And with your eyes shut, I want you to invite your eyes to open, like your peripheral vision to open, so that you could see as wide as your two ears and see out as far into the world around you as possible. You could do this with your eyes shut. Just really expand your vision. So this is zooming out, because when we are in the midst of shame, we tend to zoom in and everything just gets so narrow and so small. So when we zoom out, we could look at things through a different perspective, a softer perspective, a more grounded perspective. And lastly, make a contract with yourself to be easier on yourself, especially for the rest of the day today, to love yourself just a little bit more, to tell yourself, you know that thing I did, I'm making a big deal out of it, and it feels really big right now, and I acknowledge it feels really big, but in the wider scheme of things, I'm just a human doing my thing, living my life, just like all of us are. We're all here to be the best we could be. And release that contract. Come back into your body, taking your gold light through the crown of your head, and just let it trickle through to every cell of your body. And as it comes through and you fill your body with light, I'm going to take another moment to acknowledge and repeat the 7 steps that we just went through, so that if you want to repeat this process in the future, you're welcome to. So the first is just to acknowledge what's true for you in the moment. Acknowledge the discomfort. Don't try to push it away. Don't try to avoid it. Secondly, you're going to go back to the root. So maybe you want to choose a different root memory of where the shame originated from. For a lot of us, school was very tough, and it really imprinted that something's wrong with us. We're on the outside. And then thirdly, just validate the experiences that you're going through. You might want to look at this through a third-person perspective and see that, yeah, any child going through that would have that perspective of themselves. And then fourth, recognize how your body fragments into these different parts. You literally leave your body. And then next, you want to meet the part's needs and have compassion and love. This is where you do the healing work. Whatever that part needs, give it to them. And then 6 is the uplift. So after we met the needs, we went and repurposed the needs. So we repurposed that aspect of yourself so that there is a part of yourself that could actually really use those fragmented parts. Like, we need those parts. And then next is the uplift. The uplift is the why. If this part was healed, who would you be? And why did the Almighty create your life so that you had this issue to contend with? What is the bigger and higher reason for why? How can you use this learning, all the teachings that you've gained from this experience happening again and again and again, this pattern, how can you now transmute that into something that's for the higher good? And then lastly, the integration, updating the contract, and taking in your high gold. And let's all together just go ahead and slide your hands down your knees and bow your head to yourself. This is called balancing, where we let all of the excess residue of the healing slough off of you so that you could let go of all of that energy, anything seen and unseen, and come back into yourself and own yourself, own your present time self. So as you come up from the bow, you'll be at the vibration for the rest of the day, the appropriate vibration. So with that, we are complete with this healing. I thank you for